Hello, hello, hello. It is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. We are live on the Fightful Overbooked YouTube channel for another edition of Degrassi Dudes. I am here with the Spinner Mason to my Jimmy Brooks, and this is very appropriate. I'm calling him that on this edition here. He is Steven Jensen.
Yes. And we're going to be talking about Spinner today and Manny. That's the big debate today, is who is the best character in the history of Degrassi? Is it Spinner Mason or Manny Santos? But but yeah, as we were talking beforehand, I haven't caught the new South Park yet. I will watch that. I will watch that right after this. I watched the first two this season so far. I'm kind of making it like a Friday thing. I think I like doing this show and then like catching up on stuff that I haven't watched yet. So, but yeah, I got that. I watched Holes last week, which incredible movie with Shia LaBeouf, still totally holds up. But and then the Tinder Swindler last night, which I know you said you're going to watch soon, but that was pretty fascinating. But what's been going on with you, man?
I've been good. I've been busy. It's been a busy week. Any week, it has like a pay-per-view or premium live event, as WWE likes to call it. I've been doing previews, predictions, content on my YouTube channel, Believe in Pro Wrestling, Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel, and now we're here on Fightful Overbooked. So it's been a busy week. I'll be live later on the True Hill Heat YouTube channel at about 1:05 p.m. with Miss Chrissy Love, Top Guy JJ. We're gonna be going over the week in wrestling. What a busy week. Your boy Cody Rhodes leaving AEW, Stone Cold Steve Austin possibly making an in-ring return. And you could have found out all of that on Fightful Select, as well as Steven Jensen over here with the Weekender podcast, and cover everything else in the world of professional wrestling. So very much worth the $5 over on Patreon. And of course, if you're watching us now live on Fightful Overbooked or watching us on demand, remember to drop a thumbs up on the video, share it with your friends, subscribe if you are new, and of course hit the bell to stay notified, because there is plenty of content. We are overbooked on Fightful Overbooked with content. Later today, Will Washington goes live with day after Dynamite reviewing AEW Dynamite from this week at 4 p.m. Eastern time. But Jensen, you said you've been missing out on a lot of TV shows. I think on one of our old episodes here of Degrassi Dudes, we actually ended off an episode watching the trailer to Bel-Air, and I watched it, and I like, it took me, after watching it about twice, all the episodes over again. I'm really liking it. It's very much, they took the story from the intro of the original Fresh Prince, put it in 2022, and made it a drama.
So did they release the whole series already? Or
no, Peacock is doing the smart thing. I'm gonna say this is the smart move when it comes to any of these streaming sites. Do it week to week releases. I've been convinced by Peacemaker that week to week releases, it lasts longer. People are talking about their show with the way Netflix does it with the binge watch, where they drop the whole series. You talk about it for like maybe the weekend, but then after that, it's not talked about ever again. So
yeah, that's true. It killed me during Game Changers, though, where I was staying up till like 3 a.m. for the episodes to drop every time. I was up till 4 or 5, just like watching it, and like with like but but it did give me something to look forward to every week. So I mean,
that's like my thing with Power now. With Power drops at like midnight on Saturday, so I like stay up a little bit later to just watch that at midnight. But Peacock is doing it where they drop the first 3 episodes of Bel-Air, and then they drop a new episode every Thursday. So there's like 4 episodes out so far. It's really good. I would suggest you would watch it. That would be my show to watch this week.
Yeah, I've been seeing good stuff about it. It looks good. I mean, the trailer looked good. So yeah, I probably will watch it. Full disclosure, like, I watched Fresh Prince when I was younger, but it wasn't one of those shows that I watched like over and over and over again. It was just like in syndication on like TBS. So it was on like, there's a lot of shows that I watched that Fresh Prince came on like either between or right before. So I'm familiar with the show, but I feel like I need to rewatch some of like the key episodes before I watch Bel-Air.
I don't really think you do, honestly, because they really like took the archetypes of some characters, but like they changed it a lot. And they change a bit of like the story of like where other characters come in. Like so it's I wouldn't say this is a type of like reboot where you have to watch the original to kind of enjoy it or get into it. I feel like on its own it kind of stands on its own.
Okay, cool. I might just jump right in then. It's only a couple episodes in so far.
Yeah, only 4 episodes in so far.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, it looked good, and I see good reviews about it from like just what I've seen on Twitter and stuff. So it's good to know that they made a reboot of something. It's possible to take something that was popular a long time ago and just tell that same story, but like an updated version, and it not completely suck. And like that makes me happy because unfortunately, that's kind of what they're doing with everything right now. Like they're just like rebooting everything, and most of the reboots I don't think have been very good. So like, I'm glad that Bel Air has been good
Because for a lot of the reboots, they just try to be the old one. And I think
right.
that's where Bel Air, why people is having like a different, you'll see kind of different reactions. Like at first, I was just like, this is weird. Like, one of the bigger things to not to spoil anything, but one of the major characters does coke now, and it
Yeah,
just
Carlton.
Coked Up Carlton. That's the that's
Yeah,
the that's the name over on Twitterverse. Coked Up Carlton. That's like that was a big jarring type of character change. Everybody else you could kind of see that character being in 2022 and the different changes that they did. It makes sense, but that one it was just like, all right, what? Why? Like,
just
but
like he's rich, so he does coke.
as the show goes on, you're starting to like learn more about his character and that stuff has happened, why he's doing this. So it's gonna be very, very interesting the ride we're going on. But I feel like I'm prepping for the Degrassi reboot with this type of show. And I've also started watching Euphoria, which is I feel like is Degrassi on drugs. So
Yeah, I've read a bit about Euphoria. I haven't watched it, but I've like read some stuff about it, and it does seem very much like a Degrassi type show. Um, I don't know. I might get into it. That's a rabbit hole right there for me to like get into that also. But I mean, as far as like the reboots go, obviously we're talking about Degrassi and like we're hoping the reboot's good, but there's like certain things we definitely are hoping for in the reboot. And as long as they I mean, I thought that meme you sent me was hilarious where it was like three Spider-Mans looking at each other and it was like Toby, JT, or who was it?
Toby, Manny, and I think Emma pointed at each other,
Yeah,
like because they all named their kid James Tiberius.
yeah. Which that would be. They definitely have to have at least one kid named JT on the show that's like a tribute to the original JT. Yeah. So it's just funny to think about that. Like all the fans are kind of in the same boat. Like we all kind of want the same stuff, which means that Degrassi people should do that. And then also just the old characters. Like there has to be some sort of tie-in where I don't need a whole new show where like it's all about, you know, Emma and Spinner and Sean and Jimmy and all them, but like we do need at the very least cameo appearances from some of them. I'd imagine. I'd honestly, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like Emma and Spinner have a kid that is in the high school or something. I don't know if they're
Yeah,
old enough, if
I
that's like
mean,
makes sense, but
even if you started where they do like the junior, I think if they did like the where it's like the junior high and the high school, you can make it work where she's like 12, the kid is like 12 years old and they can just be entering the grassy high. I think we discussed on one of our old episodes as well, like Liberty and JT's kid, because
yes.
they had their kid around like 2005 2006. So this kid is definitely a high schooler, so you could have a whole story where they're coming into the school and they like kind of like are trying to learn about their parents.
Yeah, I love that idea. Like that's like probably my biggest ask for the show to have a story like that. Because don't I haven't seen it, but I think I read about it on like the Degrassi wiki about in the new class. Is there a scene where like Spinner and Emma show up and they have a kid?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember that in next class. All I remember, the only brief stuff that they did was like Emma showed up for like this whole big thing where a bunch of the old classmates were having, and she joined in like this whole protest. And then I also remember Spinner saying that they were buying a house in one of like the next class episodes.
Okay. Well, even if they wanted to say that they had a kid around that time, like then they could still make it work with them being like old enough to be in like middle school, high school ish. Because I mean that would just make the most sense, right? Where it's like
Yeah,
Spike had Emma in the original series, Emma has a new kid to like she's the Spike of this reboot. Like it would
exactly.
make sense. So
And Spinner's a teacher. Imagine that.
wow, no, Spinner's still probably working at the dot. He's probably not, doesn't even like manage the dot, or he did manage the dot back then. But that'd be funny if he hasn't advanced past that. Like he's not like an owner or anything. He just like still has the same job for like $16 an hour. Just loves working at the dot. Loves his life. He's promoting punk bands at Above the Dot still.
He's still trying to be the drummer for it, and he's still not a very good
Oh,
drummer.
he's still drumming with kids in high school. Like
Oh God,
that was the
what
whole reason the Stooges started wearing masks, was because he didn't want to be seen with. He didn't want people to know like he had already graduated. He was still hanging out with like juniors in high school.
oh, Spinner, poor Spinner. You're not making the case for him, but let's get into our whole
Nah.
our whole debate here between Spinner and Manny for the Degrassi GOAT. Gavin Spinner Mason and Manuela Manny Santos were at the top of our tier ranking last week for the best characters on the Degrassi GOATs. I place Manny above Spinner. You believe Spinner is the Degrassi GOAT. So we got to do an opening argument. So go ahead, Steven. What is your opening argument for Spinner Mason as Degrassi GOAT?
So I haven't really prepared anything, but I'll go off the top of the dome here. I've got deep knowledge of these things.
Yes.
First of all, we've talked about it before. He had, I think, the most character development of anyone on the show, as far as like just all the different stories he had, where he was like always open-minded enough to like kind of try something new or kind of reinvent himself, but then like sometimes it would backfire, right? Like Friendship Club turned out to be a bunch of D-bags, but like he stopped hanging out with Friendship Club like once he realized that. He obviously the big like negative against him obviously is he had part in Jimmy getting shot, but like he did not want that to happen. Like that wasn't his intention at all. And then he got shunned from his friend group, but like did win them all back, including Jimmy, over time. But I said this. I actually wrote a little thing for the next I'll say Degrassi magazine, the next Fightful magazine, with some Degrassi comparisons to wrestlers in there, and I compared.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I compared Spinner Mason to Chris Jericho, because they both have a ton of longevity and they both constantly reinvent themselves. So like Spinner, you could just look at the hair throughout the series and like you can see all the different character changes with some of the haircuts were terrible, but he always had like a different look, just like Chris Jericho. Every handful of years changes his look and changes his gimmick and like tries to stay fresh and relevant. Spinner is kind of the same way in a lot of ways. I compared like, what were some of the other good ones I had? I compared Emma to I compared Paige to Charlotte Flair.
That's
Like
a great one. That's actually another great one.
There were some good ones. If it makes the magazine, I'll definitely give you a heads up so you can read the comparison. Some of them were kind of a stretch, but I took like the 10 biggest characters from season 1 and then like compared them to pro wrestlers. So
very nice. What did my girl get? Manny Santos. What did she get?
I gave her Sasha Banks.
That's a very good one.
Big compliment, obviously. Yeah. So it's like I said, they're both bosses. Like, Manny, they both stand up for what they believe in. Like Sasha, basically quit the company, and Manny, like, there's many stories where Manny has to like make a really difficult decision, and she's a really loyal friend to Emma and all this stuff. So, but for them, it was also a lot just based on like they just come across like stars. Like Sasha's like the star of like WWE with the women, and Manny becomes a Hollywood actress. Like it feels like they would be friends if they were both real people. You know what I mean?
Yes, very true.
So yes, I gave Sasha Banks to Manny Santos. It's funny because the funniest one I think I did was I gave Jimmy The Rock, because I couldn't think of like anyone else, because like I couldn't do anyone based on like getting shot or like the wheelchair thing or whatever. But
but that's great as far as like transcending where they were at.
Yeah, and both, like The Rock had a big transformation from like Rocky Maivia to The Rock, and then realized like one of his big passions was actually acting, and he went to do that. Jimmy went from being a star basketball player to like, and he also has like a physical transformation of kind of like a nerdy kid into like Drake, what Drake is now, and also realized in the show like, I'm great at basketball, but like I actually love art and music, and I might be better at that. So like both of them had parallels on like changing careers and stuff like that. And I also said, I was like, all Degrassi stuff aside, like Drake and The Rock are two of like the most recognizable humans on earth right now. So like it kind of all made sense that I'd compare them to. I'm trying to think of any
you thought really hard and well on this. I have to give you credit. Those are great comparisons.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I'm trying to think of any other good ones that were on there. Sean I had as Sean was John Moxley.
That's awesome. That's so perfect.
Liberty was, I think I had Liberty as Stephanie McMahon, actually. Just like super intelligent, wants to be in charge, that kind of stuff. But like, if they don't get their way, like, you know what I mean? Like they have some character flaws.
Eddie? I mean, JT, excuse me.
Owen Hart.
I love that.
Both were pranksters and both died young tragically.
That's what I was thinking. Eddie Guerrero, but
Owen Hart that'd be another good one. I mean, both would work for sure. But I like the prankster aspect of Owen Hart. Obviously, both died tragic and both died young, and then both have like JT has a memorial inside Degrassi. Owen Hart's about to get the memorial tournament for AEW.
Those are good ones. I was thinking Eddie because died tragically. The drug use for both of them, and they were very, very funny characters as well. So that's why
that would have been a really good one. That would have been, if I didn't do Owen, that would have been a really good one for sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anyone else in like the top 10 there. That
what did you give Ashley Kerwin?
Ooh, it was someone. She was kind of a stretch. I gave her Dr. Britt Baker because neither really like they are always like Britt with like Reba and Hater. Like they're like she's clearly only friends with them to like for her own benefit, and like same for Ashley. Like she has her friends, but she was always throwing her own friends under the bus to make her look better. And I said that like both were multi-talented, where like Ashley is she's a singer and an artist and all this stuff, and Britt Baker is a doctor and a wrestler, and like they're good at more than one thing. They're very good at those things, but like they will throw their friends under the bus in a second if it means they get where they want to be.
Yeah.
So I gave her Britt Baker. I gave Emma Trish Stratus. Because when I think of women's wrestling, the first person I think of is Trish. When I think of Degrassi, the first person I think is Emma, because she like kind of started the whole thing.
Yeah.
And both also stand up for what they believe in, kind of stuff. Where like Trish was kind of like eye candy, and then like became a really good in-ring wrestler and kind of changed the perception of women's wrestling in the WWE going forward. And Emma, when it comes to like feminist issues and genetically modified foods, and like she really stands up and tries to make change herself. And then both, like they're both good looking blondes that you think about when you think about the show. So like
I would have I would have thinking about it. I would have swapped Emma and Paige. I would have gave Paige Trish Stratus because they start off one way, this pretty girl type model, and then they develop and they become one of the best, like in women's wrestling, or one of the best characters in Degrassi. And then with Emma and Charlotte, Ric Flair's daughter, Spike from Degrassi Highs, and then they have very polarizing reactions from their fan base. Like there's
Well,
some people that love Emma, and there's some people that hate Emma, just like for Charlotte Flair.
That's true. I would imagine that the majority of Degrassi fans like Emma more than they don't like her. Like there's unlikable things about her, but when it comes to like Paige, that's why I went with Charlotte and Paige, because both are the queen bees, both are divisive, both are very, very unlikable. Like if you don't like them, you really don't like them. But both are sympathetic at times. Like we saw like the thing when they brought like Reed Flair into the story with Charlotte, and you feel really bad for her and you get behind her, but then she'll do something on screen that makes you not like her again. Same with Paige. Stuff would happen to her. You feel really bad. You'd be like, oh man, like, all right, I'm on team Paige now. And then she'd do something else to like really make you not like her. And they both.
I feel like that about Emma. It like
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff you're referring to with Paige. I know this was based on season 1 characters, but I feel like you were putting a microscope on season 1 and not focusing on half the season 4. How much of a wreck Emma is, where she's getting the clap and.
Well, no, I'm with you, but like I also, I mean, we're talking like a couple sentences per here. Like this wasn't like
I know.
So I couldn't. So I
had to give you a hard time on.
No, it's all. I like the feedback, but I took the top 10 characters from season 1, and then like what I wrote about them was kind of loosely based on their overall character, but some I focus a little bit more on certain things than others, just because once again, I don't know if this will even wind up in the magazine or not, but like, I was asked to do it and I was like, you know what? Like, I'll do this. Like, I'll see if I can draw any comparisons to any of these characters.
So. That's so cool though. I have to give whoever came up with the idea to do that, and then you for doing it. That's just awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Hopefully I did you proud whenever you read this. So if it ever makes the light of day.
So. I'm definitely going out of my way to watch that. So I know we went off into a whole tangent with talking about your article for Fightful magazine, but you want anything else for your opening argument for Spinner?
No, I'll stick with what I said so far. Basically, reinvented himself, grew a lot as a person constantly, and he was on the show, like the longevity. Like he interacted with characters from season 1 all the way through. I mean, pretty much till the new class started, essentially, like with being a part of the Dot and all that stuff. So he's a multi-generational talent, Spinner Mason. So yeah, I'll stick with that for now. Go ahead with Manny.
This is true. So my opening argument for Manny Santos is she is an icon, ladies and gentlemen. She's an icon. Like, she starts off as kind of like a sidekick. She starts off this sweet, innocent girl that's just bubbly personality. All she wants to do is be a cheerleader. And then she goes through the whole development. She changes her look. She goes after, this guy that she had a crush on for so long, despite, this is the only negative you could really say about Manny is the whole Craig Ashley, her getting in the middle of that and Craig cheating on his girlfriend with her, because Manny gets more of the heat for that than Craig, because she is fighting against adversity. That even with that negative is still the most iconic love triangle in Degrassi history. All of her relationships are pretty much iconic. She was with so many, like, Spinner, I thought, was the person that had the most relationships, but Manny was with some random blonde that was on like one of the sports teams early on. Then she gets with Craig. Then she gets with JT. she has the spinner relationship. She gets with Damien. Then the one of the best love stories and relationships in Degrassi history is Manny and Jay. That love story from season 6 on is just great. She becomes a Hollywood star. Like, she has the best character arc from where she started as the sweet, innocent girl with the bubbly personality all the way to Hollywood star in a movie. Manny has the best. And of course, with any good opening argument, you have to tear down your opponent. And when I'm talking about Spinner, I'm just going to break this stuff down by season. Season 1, he's a bully. He throws gum in poor Manny's hair. What kind of jerk is he? And Terry, sweet Terry, has a crush on him. He seems interested in Terry, and all it takes is for Paige to plot and get Terry drunk, and he just moves on to Paige. Oh my god! And then he doesn't even visit her a lot in the hospital when she gets a coma, and then she goes away because she doesn't feel like she has any friends, and all of that can be stemmed back to Spinner. Season 2, he steals his friend Jimmy's Walkman when he feels like he can't deal with not having things, and his friend has things, so he steals from him. Season 3, he starts feuding with Jimmy, and he's got that horrible haircut, that blonde haircut. Oh my god, who told him to bleach his hair like that? Season 4, while Paige is dealing with a trial for rape, he's like treating her like a jerk. Like an absolute jerk. He's not being understanding. All he's trying to do is get laid when she's dealing with the mental trauma of being raped. Oh my god, what type of person is he? And then she crashes his car because she's going through stuff, and he treats her even worse. He has her working at the dot. He has her ordering around. All while he's doing that, he's flirting and I effing Manny Santos. And then immediately when he breaks up with Paige, he gets with Manny, and he just treats her like a physical object. Oh my god, what type? I don't understand how you can say this, man. It's the GOAT. Like, he gets his friend shot after bullying Rick for weeks upon weeks. He could have stopped at just the tar and feathering, but no, he sees Rick in the bathroom, and he just goes along with Jay's plan of basically blackmailing Jimmy and putting the heat on Jimmy so he can get shot. What type of person? There's no turning back. It doesn't matter how great the redemption arc. It was a great redemption arc, but I'm sorry. 4 seasons in, this man is irredeemable. So Manny Santos, by disqualification, we don't even have to get to season 5, 6, and 7. By disqualification, Manny Santos is the Degrassi GOAT.
I think everything you just said proved my point even more. Like, he was easily the most interesting character on the show based on everything. And that was all just like the negatives. And when it comes to relationships, I'll go quality over quantity. Yeah, Manny got with every guy she ever looked at. Congratulations. Spinner was one of those guys.
She did not get with Peter.
Well, but she flashed him. So she she was with Spinner at one point because Spinner was trying to get laid. But Spinner, for the most part, the Darcy relationship was important to the show. The Jane relationship was important to the show. He winds up marrying Emma, which one really thinks it
I
makes
didn't even
sense.
get to that. I was saving that negative.
But like, I mean, Manny did some questionable stuff too. Like, it's not like she didn't screw up a handful of times. Now, we're also talking about a show that lasted like over a decade. So like, there's going to be some bad stuff for all these characters in this show. Like, none of them are like squeaky clean, like ultra baby faces, if you will. Like,
I would argue that Manny learns more from her mistakes than Spinner does.
I would disagree, because even though what Spinner did was worse in most cases, like getting Jimmy shot and all that kind of stuff, like that's, like I've said before, in real life, if that happened to me, like if I was Jimmy and I knew one of my best friends, or my best friend, which was Spinner to Jimmy, had a hand in me getting shot, I would never talk to them again. Like, there's no chance that I would ever I would ever come around on that. But it's also a TV show, and like Jimmy understood, and none of the other friends blamed Spinner. Like they understood that what it was. That's why it's even weirder that Manny winds up with Jay after all that time. So your goat, Miss Manny, Miss Awesome, she winds up getting with the dude who gives Emma gonorrhea, that stole a bunch of stuff from the school, ruined Sean's life, ruined Spinner's life. I mean, I could go on and on about Jay. Had made JT almost overdose and die on drugs, and made him sell drugs. But like, this is who Manny wound up with. So I'm just saying, like, Manny can't be. I mean, so let me put it this way: you're gonna excuse all of that, and like Jay Jay's redeemable after all this stuff. And I just tipped the tippy top of the iceberg. He was a homophobe towards Marco. That's how he enters the show. Was homophobic towards Marco, homophobic towards Alex and Paige when they get together.
You're making my argument. Like Manny changed that man. Manny changed him. Manny changed him. Oh my god.
Manny changed him. But either way, my point is, you're gonna say that Spinner is irredeemable, but Jay is, and she married Jay.
I am saying I already established that Spinner's redemption arc was great. It was fantastic. But he never redeemed someone else. Manny did. Manny redeemed Jay. And like I said, she learns her mistakes. Spinner doesn't. Spinner, the whole reason that he got into the whole situation where he got Jimmy shot was that he was with the wrong group of friends. He was with Jay and he was hanging out with him and bullying Rick. And that's why he did that. The very next season, after he loses all his friends because he was associating with the wrong group of friends, he gets with the friendship club, another wrong group of friends who are prejudiced toward one of his best friends that never did anything to him. And the first person who was trying to accept him back into his original friendship group, he totally spurns him by associating with the wrong people. Again, he does not learn from his mistakes. The biggest mistake for Manny is the whole Craig, sleeping with Craig when he's with Ashley. And the whole thing that came from that is that she was judged around the school, and that becomes one of the
having an abortion, right? That's what you're talking about.
Well, she was judged for getting with someone who's in a relationship, and then she was judged for getting an abortion. But after that, Manny never judges anyone. Manny is always the understanding one that helps other people. Like Darcy in season 7, when Darcy is going through everything after she gets raped, who is there? Who is her comfort there? Who is her shoulder to cry on? It's not Peter Stone, freaking, boyfriend with the cape. He ain't that when this situation goes down. It's Manny Santos. Manny Santos saves this woman from killing herself. Come on. Spinner wants to be a goddamn cop. How many people's lives he saved?
Spinner got shot during the hostage situation.
And Holly J saved him.
Yeah, but I mean, the episode we're going to watch on Twitch right after this, Spinner saves Jimmy. What are you talking about?
He saved him from getting robbed. Jimmy wasn't going to get shot.
But you don't know. Jimmy's in a wheelchair. He's completely defenseless, and these guys are 2-on-1 trying to steal the money. Jimmy's not going to be able to do anything about it. Spinner's the one who saves the day.
Did he even get the money?
Anybody.
Did he even get the money?
I don't know if that matters in comparison to saving your friend's life.
I love how you said that so matter-of-factly.
I don't think SP3, haven't you ever been taught that, like, if someone holds a gun up to you and they go, give me all your money, you just give them the money? Like, the money isn't important. It's like saving your life that's important.
I understand that, but I'm just saying, if he's a real cop, if he's a real savior, if he really wants
He's not a real cop. He never became a cop.
He should have been. See, look at that. You're making another argument for me. They never even paid off his biggest storyline in the latter seasons of him becoming a cop. He doesn't even become a cop.
The payoff for Manny was a completely unrealistic scenario of her becoming a Hollywood actress in more Kevin Smith movies, and she gets the job by singing "Life is a Show" on a freaking top of a bus through a Jason Mewes listening from 30 stories up in a building. No way he could possibly hear her. Like, yeah, Manny, big hero.
Yeah, they paid it
Hollywood
off.
Actress, congratulations.
They paid off her latter season. They paid off her goal at around the same time in high school. These two developed goals. One was to become a cop. One was to become an actress. One of these people accomplished their goal. Therefore, they are the Degrassi GOAT.
One was spending all of their time sleeping with everyone at the school. One of them was spending their time overcoming adversity and beating testicular cancer.
She was not sleeping with everybody in the school.
She probably slept with the most people of anyone on the show.
I'm pretty sure she only slept with Craig and Spinner. Shit, JT didn't pull it off. He couldn't pull it off. You know, he was trying to pump the dick hard, and it didn't work out. So that didn't work. The blonde guy, she was still a virgin because that was before Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she got with Craig later on, and then Jay. So she slept with 3 people. You're judging her on 3 people? Spinner got with...
It's more than that. It's more than that. It's definitely more than that.
Those are the 3 people we know for sure. There's only 3 people we know for sure. We know Spinner slept with Emma, who he marries, Paige, Manny, I think Jane. Man, this man's a whore. That's one more than Manny. He's someone that he just tried to put a moniker on and try to debunk her name because of the people that she tries to share a bed with. Spinner has one more than that, and that one more includes someone he wasn't even supposed to marry, that he barely interacted with in Degrassi.
No. If I went through, I guarantee you. It's and that was also that was like Manny's, like, it might not have been fair, but that was what she was known as at Degrassi, was like, don't let your boyfriend near Manny, she will get with him. Like that was definitely the stigma, and it was a stigma for a reason, at least at the beginning. Dude, because we're also, I mean, like, I can assume she was having sex with her arts teacher or whoever, the dude who didn't want her to do movies and stuff. I mean, she had plenty of relationships where we don't know for sure that they had sex.
That's 4. All right, I'll give you that. I'll give you that one.
Emma, probably. I mean, I don't know, maybe the 2 of them.
He was like they did share a room for a very long time.
Know. It's possible. I don't know.
I mean, they have a bunch of guys that they shared, so I mean, they pretty much they shared Spinner, they shared Jay, so they pretty much.
Yeah, did you count Jay in that? Because
I did count Jay. Count Jay.
Peter, she didn't have sex with, but she did flash him.
That doesn't count.
Doesn't count. Okay.
That doesn't count.
Because Emma flashed the whole. I guess that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Let's keep it a buck. And Spinner. Everybody seen his ass. So.
Yes, yeah. When he wasn't on his riddle and he mooned the school, I forgot about that. Was way early on. I actually don't want this to turn into like a bunch of because I like Manny. I'm just trying to find things to attack because you're attacking Spinner. But I like both of these characters.
I love how this has become a teardown. This is a real debate, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, the character evolution. She doesn't judge others. She knows how it feels. And I didn't even bring up. I was saving this because I knew Jensen would come hard, so I had to save some in the chamber. Number 1, fashion icon. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. The thong outside the jeans, all the different looks. Like, you thought Paige was popping in season 1? Man, Manny from season 3 on is the best dressed person in every single room she goes into. Look at the thumbnail. Look at the thumbnail for this video. The hat look with the ponytail. That's iconic. She did it for 1 episode.
I can't base this off of who I'm more attracted to, though.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just talking about the different looks. I'm talking about being a fashion icon for women.
When you're also comparing it to the least, I mean, Spinner was the worst looking person on the whole thing when it came to fashion.
See,
I don't
check
care
for
about
Manny.
fashion though. That's not even that's a non-factor in this debate as far as I'm concerned. I don't care
Check,
about their
check for
fashion
Manny.
choices.
No, because of how much of an icon she was in the fashion world, she has a bigger impact and influence on the fan base. People wanted to dress like Manny. Girls wanted to be like Manny. Guys like us watching it in our teens wanted to get with Manny. Like that was the whole thing. Like she was it was like Sable, like Sable's old catchphrase. All the guys come to see me. Like, oh yeah, like she was that type of character, the most desirable on the show, impact and influence on the fan base, where people talk about Manny Santos like she's a god. That is why she is the greatest of all time.
Okay, well, I'll also just throw this out there. We didn't get a lot of comments on it, but when I put this out on Twitter, seemed to be a lot of people that agreed with me about Spinner. So I'm just saying, I'm definitely not alone here.
I know. I understand.
But
People can be wrong. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. We can't all be right.
But yeah, I think Manny is definitely more attractive to me than Spinner for sure. I mean, doesn't mean she's a more interesting character on the show. I don't think that Spinner was like the most wholesome character on the show. That's not what this is really about for me. It's about who do I think was the best character on the show, like from start to finish. Who had the most interesting stories? Who also had memorable relationships? Who grew the most? Who changed it up the most? Who had longevity? And that's all Spinner for me. Like and the multi-generational thing helps his case, I think, because he got to interact with so many different characters because he was on the show for so long that I think he just made for the best overall character. Then some of the stuff he did, that's a different story. Like I said, him getting him having a hand in Jimmy getting shot in real life, that's unforgivable, right? Like the friendship club thing. Desiree in the chat with a good point.
Yes.
He was a douche to Marco when Marco came out, but he did eventually start defending Marco. Like he did come to his senses eventually. It doesn't completely make up for being an asshole initially, but I'm just saying, like, over time, he is not homophobic. But because that's the other thing. You can say the same about a lot of characters that like completely changed over the course of 10 plus years on the show.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and say like that Spinner was this perfect person. But there's also, I mean, he also had to go through a lot of shit on the show and overcome a lot of adversity, like losing all of his friends. Granted, it was his own fault. The testicular cancer wasn't his fault. Getting shot at the dot wasn't his fault. There was another one on the tip of my tongue that I forgot. That was another big Darcy basically starting OnlyFans online and him like having to deal with that and be like, wait a second, my girlfriend's posted pictures for guys for money online. Like, what the hell? I love this girl. What am I doing? I'm pretending to be Christian for this girl. Like, you know what I mean? I gotta wake up early and show up to friendship club every day at school. Like, I don't even like these people. But I like I said, at the end of the day, here's the thing, right? It's all subjective, objective, however you want to call it. I don't think there's any way of really, because if we're basing this off of just like being wholesome, it can't be Manny or Spinner. Like if that's what this is about, like we have to choose.
It's not about. It's coming up with arguments to support your belief that they are the Degrassi GOAT. And I think I came up with enough arguments that leads many to believe, even if they came in Team Spinner, that Manny does have some the positives for Manny outweigh the positives for Spinner, and the negatives for Spinner outweigh the negatives for Manny. And also Nathan, it makes a good point. He says Manny's romantic arcs are the most important to the show. Because she's like her romantic arc is like the focal point of season 3 with the whole love triangle. Her and Spinner is kind of really important in the middle portion of season 4. Like they kind of like are the middle portion that kind of fills up the gap between Rick shooting Jimmy and then them eventually finding out. that kind of fills that gap in between there. And then in season 5, everything with her exposing her boobs and then getting with getting back with Craig, and she's in another great love triangle with Ellie. So then season 6, Craig comes back, gets her on drugs, still in the love triangle with Ellie. Then she slowly starts the whole love story with Jay, and then that's kind of a focal point through the rest of the series until eventually Degrassi Goes Hollywood. So I agree, Nathan. She developed as it was going on as well, because the first blonde guy she's with is kind of oblivious and not very good to her, so she gets with Craig because she sees how Craig is so good with Ashley, but she knows that's wrong because Craig don't claim her because he got a girl already and she's basically cheating with her. So she gets with JT because JT actually wants her, but JT is immature, so she finds the middle ground of Spinner, where he is immature, but he still treats her very well, but he's just here to get some buns. Then she moves on to that. She goes back with Craig. That's another big mistake. I will say that is a negative, going back to Craig after he already burned you, thinking that it would be different this time. No, it was worse. He got
but every girl, that happened with every girl with Craig, to be fair.
That is true.
Yeah.
They always gave Craig a second chance. Like, it's like, why would you, like, this never works out. At least Ashley, we're about to make history on this episode here.
Were you about to compliment Ashley?
I'm about to compliment Ashley Curran, because at least when they got back together, she burned him before she could burn her.
That's true.
She was I'm going to London. I'm staying here. Peace.
Yeah.
I ain't dealing with your ass anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. Manny, good character. Very good character. Is she the GOAT? I don't know. I just don't know. And is Spinner the GOAT? I don't know either. But I think that those are the two best choices.
Yes.
I can't think of anyone else that I'd put above. I mean, JT is the only one I think that could be debatable because of how loved he is by the fan base, and because he does die so tragically. Like, I don't think you find one person who watched Degrassi that doesn't like JT. So I think he would probably be the safest bet if you were just to poll all Degrassi fans, who's your favorite. I think JT is a can't miss. But I think that, once again, I think the most interesting character for the series was Spinner. That's just me. But I'm also not going to sit here and I tried to trash Manny because you were trashing Spinner. I was trying to figure something there, but Manny's a great character. I love Manny. She's one of my favorite characters on the show. So I think it's just up to personal opinion, but I don't know if there's even I want to know the feedback. Let us know in the comments. Let us know here. Let us know in the comments below if you watch the replay. Let us know on Twitter who is the better character between Spinner and Manny. And then if one of the two of them isn't the GOAT of the show, tell us who is. I do want to know. I do want to get feedback on this and see what people are thinking.
Yes, we got to figure out who the fan base would say is the Degrassi GOAT, because it necessarily doesn't have to be the most popular person. Like we said, we're really just arguing with their characters, what some of the positives about their overall characters, and then some of their highlights as a character, people they've helped, stuff like that. This is a very well-rounded type of conversation where you could pretty much say anyone and you could probably make a good argument. Some people might think Paige is the Degrassi GOAT. Some people might think Emma is the Degrassi GOAT. Newer fans might think it's Claire Edwards or Ali Bandari. I would say Ali Bandari is the person that I could probably make as good or even greater of an argument to be the Degrassi GOAT than Manny Santos, but she wasn't a part of those early on seasons, so a lot of the fan base doesn't really know her. But as far as character growth, that girl got it. But Manny Santos is what I chose here because she's a fashion icon. She is a great friend who learns from her mistakes, always there for Emma, there for Darcy, there for anyone that needs Manny, she is there for. And that is why she is the Degrassi GOAT. She gives people second chances, even though they wind up being cokeheads. Come on.
Oh, come on, man. Spinner was in love with Jane and then finds out by overhearing through a tent conversation that that he was cheated on, and then he still forgives her right before his wedding. Like, I mean,
right before his wedding, like he wasn't with Jane the past 2 years before 2 days before his wedding.
yeah, I mean the whole idea of him and Emma getting together is just it's so strange and so random and happened so fast. But at least at the very least, it was two OG characters that wound up together, so they both got a happy ending. Like at the very least, like it did even though the relationship doesn't make any logical sense. And also with Spinner, this is kind of funny, but when I was in high school, I worked at a YMCA. I was a gym monitor. That was my job title. I watched the basketball courts and the batting cages and the hockey rink and made sure like basically no one's getting in fights or hurt or whatever. And there was a guy that I worked with who one day came in, like I'd been working with him for months, and all of a sudden he showed up with this new haircut, and it was the half shaved, half long hair Spinner thing.
Nice.
And I asked
Season
him,
5.
yeah, and I asked him, I was like, hey man, you watched Degrassi? And you're like, yeah, man. And I was like, yeah, I figured, you know, I knew like there's only one reason you'd have that haircut, and it was definitely him trying to look like Spinner. So
see,
yeah.
you could have made that argument. People actually wanted to have Spinner's haircut.
People were willing to look that ridiculous to try to be like Spinner because they like Spinner so much.
Will Chisholm with a good point. He was like, "How much you bet people will say Drake just because?"
Well, he's obviously the most famous person to come out of the show. And I know like Nina Dobrev became famous, but I mean like Drake's Drake. I mean Drake's like the most famous. I was talking about it a little earlier. Drake and The Rock are like legitimately probably like the two most famous people on earth right now. And the thing with Jimmy, and me and SP3 have talked about it on the show before, the thing that really holds him back on the show for when it comes to rankings is that he pretty much had no like real good character or stories until he got shot. Like we're like Jimmy was more of like a sidekick to Spinner kind of, and then after he gets shot, there's a lot of character development and that kind of stuff. But then like his relationship with Hazel just never seemed like there was a whole lot going on there, and we never got a real conclusion of him like getting the stem cell surgery and like getting like the whole arc of like him with his new girlfriend that he meets in physical therapy and kind of what happens with them and if they ever walk again and all that kind of stuff. Like there was a lot to be left on the table with Jimmy. But it wasn't Aubrey Graham's fault or Drake's fault or whatever. Like he did a great job in the role. He's one of the most memorable characters because of getting shot and because of that whole, I mean, school shooting is just being used in a TV show like that. It was just like a really powerful story. Which actually next week, that's a great reminder. Next week, we're going to have Amanda on the show. Y'all might know her as K Fabulous on Twitter. She's Canadian, and she watched Degrassi back when the show was airing, when we were all in high school back in the day. And and she's going to come on the show next week, and we're going to talk about those episodes, the Time Stands Still 2-part episode, which we're going to cover a lot of the stuff we're talking about today with Spinner leading to Jimmy getting shot, and then Jimmy actually getting shot and Sean saving Emma and all that stuff. So like we'll talk about that next week with Amanda, and then the episodes we'll watch next on Twitch. Like after that, we'll just watch those 2 episodes so you guys can watch exactly what we're talking about. So that'll be. It just reminded me with what Will just said about Drake. Like that's perfect for next week. If you're here next week, Will, you'll really like the show.
Absolutely. Probably like the most famous of the episodes of Degrassi. Those because the school shooting was not something that a lot of different TV shows were doing at the time. It was something that was very prevalent from like 1999 on, since the Columbine shooting, but it wasn't really depicted in that type of way until like Degrassi and shows like One Tree Hill kind of did it and kind of showed the emotions of the shooter and stuff. I think that's where it really drove home what all of this really means.
Yeah. And there was, I mean, it was big too for a show like that to have a character like go through that, like getting shot and then becoming paralyzed and then having to kind of like pivot like the priorities of that character. Like,
yes,
like he couldn't really be the basketball star anymore. He could still coach and he could still be involved, but then you just saw him become more and more of an artist and using it got really big on using his mind to get stuff done versus like being an athlete, if that makes sense. And like,
yeah,
it was a real character change, and I thought it was just really, I mean, but it wasn't just that, right? Like, I mean, seeing JT get stabbed, like there was a lot of stuff during the show that was like really shocking, especially for the time that they put it in like a teenage drama like they did. But like Jimmy getting shot, I'll say this. I think Jimmy getting shot or JT getting stabbed, those are probably the two most remembered and talked about moments in the history of the show. I think if you were just to talk to somebody who hasn't even watched Degrassi since it aired back in 2005, 6 or whatever, if you're just to be like, oh, I used to watch Degrassi, I think the thing they would bring up first, or they'd say was the most memorable, was one of those two things.
I agree. Like for me, as a longtime Degrassi fan, there's nothing like how sad I felt when JT got stabbed. Like with Jimmy getting shot, it was sad, but like it was next level with JT because the character was done. Like at least Jimmy, we got to see him really get a chance to act afterwards, and with JT, that was it. Like one of the better characters, the comedic relief for a lot of seasons. That's the person that they took out 6 seasons in. I would never get over them. I'd never forgive Degrassi writers for that.
Yeah, it's like it was such a good story and such a big moment that like in a sense I'm glad they did it, because like for the show, like it was something like I did not expect that to happen. Like I remember watching that episode when it first aired. I was sitting in my college dorm room, I think. I was either in my college dorm room. I think I actually was a freshman in college when I was watching that. And I remember like watching it by myself because my friends didn't watch Degrassi. I don't think I even wanted them knowing I was watching Degrassi. And I was sitting there like in my room and I was watching it on my laptop, and I remember when he actually got stabbed, and it was like I was shocked. And I've heard the cast talk about it a little bit too, where they're like, it was like the saddest day in the history of the show, because like not only were they killing that character off, Ryan Cooley, or I think is his name, like it's like he's just not a part of the show anymore either. Like their friend who was like this actor who was with them for all these years and really well loved, just like he just wasn't on the show anymore. And I don't think that it was even a thing where like he wanted to leave the show. I think it was just like that story made sense for that character, and like by kind of consequence that he just wasn't on the show anymore. So
crazy decision, and sometimes these shows do that, and it shocks even the actors and the actresses, because when they read it they don't expect it, and then they do, and then they see it, and then they just feel like the feeling of regret, like they didn't do enough on the show. It's kind of sad overall, but we have put the link in the chat for twitch.tv/True Hill Heat Wrestling. You can also go to twitch.tv /Fight Talk _. We're going to be live over there on Twitch with watching the best of Manny and Spinner. One episode chosen by Jensen here for Spinner, and one episode chosen by me for Manny that best represents why they are the Degrassi GOAT. And of course, while the show, we're going to be playing the show for you on screen so you can watch along with us. You will give you the information where you can watch it on YouTube right along with us. And we're going to be talking about the episodes, talking about our favorite characters and some of the character developments in the season. As we go on with the next couple of weeks, like you said, we're going to have Amanda on the show next week. So that should be a fun show. That's going to be a kind of a taped interview where we talk directly about Time Stands Still, but we'll also be here live. So it'll be kind of like what Jensen does every Thursday over on the Spotlight, where we can have the interview play and then you can get us in the beginning and us at the end live with you here. So you, any feedback, any comments you got, we'll interact with you guys.
Yeah, and then like we were saying, we'll watch the episodes we're talking about. I don't know if Amanda, hopefully she can stay and go on Twitch with us afterwards, but even if it's just me and you, we'll watch with the chat over on Twitch after. So we'll talk about Time Stand Still, then we'll watch the episodes on Twitch afterwards. So it'll be a good time. And it's really hard to pick an episode that really encapsulates Manny or Spinner because they were on the show for so long. But I'm glad that I chose an episode where he saves somebody, because what are you talking about, man? Spinner doesn't care about anyone but himself.
He doesn't care about anyone.
Yeah.
And I have chosen the one of the more infamous episodes. It's when Manning gets her abortion. So we're
You
gonna
actually
talk.
chose that one. Wow.
Yes.
That one actually, I didn't see that one ever until like the pandemic, because it didn't air when we were younger. Yeah.
They skipped it. They basically skipped it. And it was like a big hole in the story, basically, because everybody would reference it like between like Emma, Manny, Craig, like afterwards, but it was like, why didn't we ever see this? Like,
yeah, I was so confused when I watched it like during the pandemic, when I was like marathoning it, and like that episode came up, and I remember being like, have I not seen this? Like, I've seen every episode of this show multiple times, and like, I don't know how I don't remember seeing this. Like, this is like heavy stuff. I would definitely remember this. And then I looked into it, and it was like, oh, it's because it never aired in the US like until years later when you can like watch them on demand. So yeah, I was kind of hoping you were gonna pick one where she like the whale tail one you referenced earlier, like just like her just like being hot and like having fun, but like I guess we're gonna go the complete opposite. And
we gotta
really,
get the
really
acting. We gotta get the acting chops. This is where she was only like 14, 15 years old, and she was asked to perform that. Like, that was one of the toughest roles anyone in Degrassi in those first 3 seasons had to like play, outside of probably like Paige dealing with, you know, the whole Dean situation. I think that Manny's whole situation with being with Craig and then having the abortion, that was like the best acting that we got.
Oh yeah, great acting. I mean, and like, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from that. And all this stuff, by the way, I'm not even, you know, I'm not judging any of these people or these characters or whatever. They're just trying to tell stories and like relate it to real life. Like, you know, whether you're like pro or against the idea of abortion and all that stuff, like it's just the fact that they included like a realistic real life situation like this on the show. Like that, at the end of the day, people can have their own moral kind of compass on a lot of these stories in this show, like whether they think they're right or wrong or stuff. But like the reality is this is reality. And like the show isn't a reality show, obviously, but it's like they are depicting real life problems that real life teenagers actually do go through all the time. And, but yeah, it's got to be so awkward for some of that stuff, like filming these things for these young actors and actresses. Like, so they did do such a good job. Imagine being like Emma, you're like reading the script, and it's like, I'm gonna start giving Jay blowjobs and get gonorrhea. Like, you sure? Like, I don't. Are you sure? Like,
you sure about
that?
This?
Like,
you sure about this?
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's got to be stuff where they're like, oh, like that's got to be tough. But that they're professionals. These are some of the best actors and actresses, like some of the most underrated like ever, for how good they are on this show and how long some of them are on this show. Like, so yeah, we're about to get into some heavy stuff here. I think we should probably start off with the Manny episode, and then we get a little more lighthearted with the even though there's still, you know,
some serious stuff there
too.
Yeah. But yeah, it also works out chronologically, Rise, because my episode is in season 3, your episode's in season 6 or 7 there, so it makes sense on a number of levels. So join us over on Twitch. We'll also be live on Steven Jensen's Twitter page in about like 10 minutes, so 11:15 we shall start. So join us over there. And Jensen, anything you want to plug before we sign off here?
Watch the spotlight from yesterday, youtube.com/Fightful. Me and Jeremy talked about Cody and Steve Austin and a whole bunch of stuff. It was a really good episode. If you want to see me dress up like Stardust at the beginning of the show, that's the place to be. Did you get to watch the beginning of that?
I did watch a little bit of that. I did watch. Well, I watched you more at the end with having the Stardust.
Oh, so at the beginning of the show, I pulled the Jeremy because I had seen him years back do the double Sting reveal.
Yeah.
And I did the yellow Stardust mask into the purple Stardust mask, and the purple and the yellow gloves to the purple gloves. So I hit him with the watch that before we go live, y'all. If you want to just check out that. I uploaded the clip to Twitter. It's easiest to do that. It's like a minute clip if you want to just watch that. But yeah, watch the spotlight, youtube.com/Fightful. Tomorrow night, same place, Fightful's main channel over on YouTube. It'll be myself and Denise Salcedo doing a Impact No Surrender post show. So it'll be right after the show tomorrow night. Sunday, Fightful Select Weekender podcast talking the world of independent wrestling. So everything else I got going on, I'll keep updated on my Twitter, FightTalk_.
Boom. And you can follow me on the Twitter machine at TrueHillSP3. Like I said, join us right after this in about like less than 10 minutes over on Twitch for our post show. I'll go live at 1:05 p.m. Eastern time here on YouTube on True Hill Heat 163. Myself, Miss Chrissy Love, Top Guy JJ back together to talk about Cody leaving AEW, Stone Cold's return, and preview for the weekend with No Surrender, Elimination Chamber, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and plus much, much more. And also on Sportskeeda Wrestling YouTube channel later on tonight on Smack Talk with Rick Ucchino and Dutch Mantel. So check out all of that. Check out the Spotlight and the Weekender podcast. And we will see you back here next Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time on another edition of Degrassi Dudes. Peace.